Welcome to the Elephant Room, where we tackle the unspoken, uncomfortable, and unseen truth. Join Linda Carmouche, your host, a licensed therapist, mental wellness strategist, and speaker, going beyond titles, addressing the emotional scars, hidden trauma, fears, and the silent battles many professionals face but rarely discuss. Come on in. The Elephant Room, where vulnerability meets strength. Hit subscribe and connect with hope, healing, and the courage to address the elephant in the room. Remember, the content here is for informational purposes only. Seek help from a qualified professional for mental health concerns, and discretion is advised for sensitive topics.
Come on into the Elephant Room. How y'all doing? Let me tell you, last week, I missed y'all so much. But what would it look like for me to always tell you to take care of yourself and pour into yourself if I didn't do the same? So last week, I took some time and went to Woman Evolve 2024 and had an opportunity to just take care of myself and get poured into. So I missed y'all, but I am back and ready for a hot, heated conversation. Tonight, we have a guest. And you know what is interesting? Of all the years that I have worked in mental health, I have never met someone who specializes in what she specializes in. We're going to talk about a subject that we don't talk about often, but it does impact us, and that is maternal mental health. She's going to break it down for us. Brooke Wilson. Brooke is originally from Ohio, but she lives in the great state of Texas. And Brooke is a nationally licensed certified counselor. She's certified in multiple states, and her specialty is perinatal mental health. I think I know what that is, but we're going to get Brooke in the room and make sure she breaks it down for us. Give it up for Brooke, y'all. In the chat box, talk to us. Hey, Brooke, welcome to the Elephant Room.
Good evening. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad you had some time to carve out and join us in the Elephant Room. I see that we have a couple of people in there. I'm waiting on them I see some thumbs ups coming in and some hello, how you doing? Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Elephant Room, where we talk about all the things, Brooke, that we don't really want to talk about
it. Talk about it.
So when you talk about perinatal or maternal mental health, break it down so that we can understand what that really means.
Absolutely. So when we think about maternal mental health, we're talking about a mother's emotional well-being during pregnancy and during the postpartum period. So it involves the mental health issues and challenges that can arise during that time, such as perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. So we're talking about depression, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about OCD, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder in particular. Now, there are other mood disorders that could arise. Those are the ones that are most common that are affected or that women are affected by.
So the interesting thing is, a lot of the times when we think of women getting pregnant and going to have a baby, we think that's always a happy time, that she should be overjoyed. But what I think I hear you saying is sometimes, even while the mother is carrying the baby, she may have some mental health issues. Is that
Absolutely.
what I hear you saying?
Absolutely. Some of our mamas that experience perinatal mood and anxiety disorders may have experienced some sort of mood disorder prior to becoming pregnant. And so then it carries on into pregnancy. Sometimes it develops in pregnancy or during pregnancy, and then it carries on throughout pregnancy and postpartum. Sometimes women may have it during pregnancy, and then once baby is born, they're fine. Sometimes it doesn't start until the postpartum period. Lots of
So
different variations.
So when you hear mothers saying, "Oh, it's just my hormones," you're telling me that it's possible that it could be more than just their hormones having them to experience mood disorders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are real.
Okay, so how did you, of all the things you could do as a therapist, how did you end up falling in love and becoming a specialist, I like to call it, in this area?
Personal experience. Long story short. So I was actually one of those moms, one of those women who just could not wait to be a mom. I didn't know what I wanted to do career wise, but I knew I wanted to be a mom. And when I had my daughter in 2014, I suffered from postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, and I could not understand why I was feeling like this. I remember I had my daughter in March, and I remember my birthday that year very vividly. I was sitting in the nail salon getting my nails done, and my beautiful, healthy baby was sitting in the stroller right next to me, and I could not stop crying. And I did not know why. I was very irritable. I had anxiety to the point where I had intrusive thoughts of me dying and then leaving my baby, my husband, to be a single father. I was afraid that we would get into a car accident and that I wouldn't be able to save my baby. Had all kinds of things happening. Now, then I did not know what I was experiencing. It wasn't until I had our son that I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening again.
Wow.
Uh, and I started to dig deeper. I was already in a graduate program at my alma mater, and I started researching. And I said, I know I can't be the only person that's experiencing this. And so here I am now.
That's amazing that you had that experience, but you had never heard anything about it. And so I believe what happens oftentimes when we have an experience and we've never heard anything about it and nobody's talking about it, it makes us feel like we're on an island. Something is wrong with me. And when something is
Absolutely.
wrong with me and I have this beautiful, healthy baby sitting next to me, how dare I say
Mhm.
something is wrong?
Exactly. Exactly. And that is one of the things that I believe feeds into those mood disorders so much, is that feeling that we are alone, feeling so
Mm,
isolated, or that we have to isolate ourselves, or that we can't talk about it because people will commit us,
yes.
think that just because I have thoughts or visions of me hurting my baby doesn't mean I'm actually going to do it.
Say that.
Um,
Sorry. Can you say that again?
Absolutely. Just because I have thoughts or I see myself hurting my baby doesn't mean I'm actually going to do it.
Yes.
And so when women share those thoughts, they end up being involuntarily committed because people think that they're a danger to their baby, and that's not always the case.
Yes, that's why we have to make sure that we are asking the questions and we're
Correct.
assessing them, because we don't want to cause them even more trauma
Absolutely.
based on how we respond. I don't want to move away from that too fast because I think there are some other things in there we need to unpack. This doesn't just impact the mama.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
impacts the loved ones that are sitting around them.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about getting help, what are some of the things, if I have someone in my life and they've just had a baby and they're experiencing some things similar to what you experienced as a new mom, what are some things I can do other than rushing to get them involuntarily committed?
I feel like the number one thing that seems so simple yet is so important is listening without judgment.
Mm. Dig a little deeper. You can't stop there, Brooke. What does it look like? Come on. What does it
Listening
look like in everyday life?
So that may just look like you sitting there with the mom and just letting her vent and talk, maybe asking questions without giving advice, or maybe even just asking, how can I support you?
Mm,
What do you need? How can I help you?
that's good.
Instead of what you said earlier, girl, you have a beautiful, healthy baby here, or babies. Why are you upset? How can you be sad?
Yes.
How
Yes.
can you be depressed? How can you feel that way? How can you be anxious? You're so blessed,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then that makes the mom feel more guilty. And then again, she starts suffering more in silence because her fears were validated
That she would
with
be judged.
judgment.
Yeah, that she would be
With
judged.
judgment. Hmm.
And I would venture to say this probably is even more complicated when you have a couple where the mom has not been able to conceive as quickly as
Mm.
she would have liked. She had fertility issues, and now she finally got pregnant.
Hmm.
She's having challenges with depression and
Hmm.
anxiety. And now we're wondering, why isn't she happy? Because she's finally getting what she desired.
Hmm. Absolutely. And in fact, ironically, women who go through fertility treatment is actually a risk factor for someone that develops a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, along with being a woman of color, along with having previous mental health concerns or disorders or diagnoses, along with your socioeconomic status, along with your age.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's interesting. You said that you had thoughts of maybe I'll be in an accident or maybe I won't
Mhm.
be here. And when I was
Mhm.
doing some research for the show tonight, one of the things I saw is there is a 20%, and I want to make sure I get it right. It said in the US, suicide is a leading cause of maternal mortality, accounting for about 20% of deaths in the postpartum period.
Mhm.
20% of mamas
Mhm.
dying by suicide is that's a big deal.
It's pretty high. And I think a lot of that has to do, I would probably venture to say that some of those women were also experiencing some sort, or could have been experiencing some sort of psychosis,
Okay?
which is another perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. It is not, psychosis is not as common as we may think it is. And that's the disorder where women will be afraid to say, I'm having thoughts or I see myself doing
Mhm.
XYZ or hurting my child. And then they end up. So, psychosis is actually when you not only see yourself doing that, but you know that you are a danger to your child. And there have been stories where women have sought help and they haven't been helped appropriately or in time, and then they do end up completing infanticide and then ultimately possibly completing suicide as well.
That's good information. Whenever, whether it's maternal mental health or otherwise, whenever we don't give attention to mental illness, it can worsen.
Absolutely.
It can worsen.
Absolutely.
And there are unfortunates when we don't give attention when attention is needed.
Yes.
Um, One of the listeners asked, is there treatment or a cure, or once you have it or experience it, you will always have this experience? And that person I
So
think is talking about what you had shared.
with the
Thoughts?
perinatal mood and anxiety
Yeah.
disorders. So if you have it with one pregnancy, you are at risk for having it again. However, every pregnancy is different. So just because you had it the first time doesn't mean you'll have it the second time, doesn't mean you'll have it the third time, or however many pregnancies you experience. There are things that you can do to help decrease symptoms, things like placenta preservation. That's one that I don't think a lot of women talk about, because when you encapsulate your placenta and you take that as a capsule, it helps redeposit those hormones that are lost during birth. So that's one that is becoming more popular now and has shown some pretty good research on that,
Okay.
some outcomes, good outcomes. Another one is your support system, making sure that your support system is tight, that you have what you need, that you have someone that you can talk to without judgment, someone that's going to listen to you, someone that's really going to help you, and you can say, this is what I need from you.
Yes. That's good. That's good. Support systems play such a major role when people are experiencing mental health issues. What we say and do really does impact how that person moves forward in treatment
Hmm.
and getting the
Hmm.
help that they need. Um, we cannot downplay it. We cannot
No,
downplay
we
it.
can't. We can't. And just like you would go to the doctor if you feel like you're having chest pains and you think that you're having a heart attack, that's how we want to treat our mental health. Okay. So, a therapist, your psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever kind of mental health provider that you choose, let's not be afraid to go to that person, that specialist that person that specializes in mental health, just like you would go to a cardiologist if you have heart problems,
Come on
just
with
like
it.
you would go to a gastroenterologist if you have GI problems. You go to the specialist,
Yes.
right? And let's break down those barriers. Let's bury all of those stigmas about going to a mental health professional. There's also medications. Many people are like, I'm not taking pills. I'm not taking. Well, you would take a pill if you had high blood pressure. If you need a medication to kind of help balance those intrusive thoughts in your brain, why not try it? Why
Yes.
not see if it works for you? And if it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. You can say that I tried it and this just wasn't the pill for me. You could
Yes.
try a different one or a different dosage, just like with high blood pressure medication. I keep going back to this because it's so common. But with high blood pressure, sometimes you have to try out different doses before you find the one that works for you. It's the same with mental health medication. Sometimes you have to try different ones, different doses to find the one that works for you.
And it is not a quick fix.
It's
And
not.
there are some things that medication is not going to do. So you may need
Mhm.
to have a therapist and a psychiatrist to get your medicine.
Yes.
Okay, so that you
Yes.
can process
Absolutely.
some of that stuff. One of the listeners asked, as a loving spouse or partner, what are some of the signs I should be looking for in that loved one that may be a red flag so that they can help assist them through that experience with love?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So, some common signs and symptoms would be crying and not knowing why she's crying, why they're crying. They may not want anything to do with the baby. They may not find joy in the things that they would usually enjoy. They may be sleeping more. Now, obviously, when you have a newborn, you're sleeping as much as you can, hopefully. But they may not want to leave the bed. They may stop taking care of themselves as far as personal hygiene, especially when they have those opportunities to do so, when they have that support system, when your loved one is right by your side, or when you have other family members that are helping you, but you notice they're still not taking advantage of the opportunities that they have to shower or to get out of the house. Sometimes getting out of the house can do a world of good. But if they're starting to isolate themselves, Those are other things. If they even share any types of intrusive thoughts that they may have, or just feeling down. Now, about 80% of women experience something called the baby blues, and that usually hits a couple of days up to 2 weeks after giving birth. But if you notice that those things do not start to go down or start to get better, start to level out after 2 weeks, then that's when you really need to start talking to a professional about it. Let your doctor know, hey, I'm still having these feelings. They're not going away. What do I need to do? What are my options?
That's good. I think asking questions to your loved one, even if you see them crying, you see them sleeping too much,
Mm-hmm.
they're not taking care of themselves, they don't want to have anything to do with the baby. Let's go back to the no judgment zone. We
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
ask questions. Tell me how you are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we
And
don't ask,
honestly, I think it's great to ask. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
So I think it's great to ask those questions and also be aware that she may not know the answer. And
Mm.
that's okay too. So then when she doesn't know the answer, then you say, okay, can we go to the doctor about this?
Okay, Brooke, let me tell you how it probably would play out before they came to the podcast tonight. Let me show you how it would play out. Hey, something wrong? Because you ain't been holding the baby. Something wrong? I don't know. I just don't feel right. What you mean you don't feel right? What you need? I don't know. Well, if you don't know how I'm supposed to know. That's how it would play out, Brooke. So you're saying that
Mm-hmm.
that's not a healthy way. Come on, elephant room. Is it the truth?
That's
That
that's that's not going to work this time around. That may cause her to withdraw even more and to be more
Yes.
sad and feel less heard. I'm telling you, a woman during that time, honestly, anytime, but especially during this time,
Yes.
desires to be heard.
Yes. And it's scary. I believe I've never been in this position, but I would imagine it is scary wanting to love your baby but not
Mm,
having the ability in that moment
mhm,
because you're fighting something probably that you've never fought before, and
mhm,
not knowing how do I move forward from this place. So the more attention, the more love that we can give, the least we want to take judgment all the way down to zero, because that's not going to be helpful at all. Somebody said that's exactly how it's going to play out. And sometimes it's because we don't know, Brooke. We
That's
don't
very
know
true. That's
another
very
way.
true.
And we're doing the best we
Mhm,
can. But now that we know, we need to be more open. And even business owners and even managers and leaders, when you know that woman has given birth and you're seeing her move differently, it's
check in.
important for us to just stop and give a little
Mhm,
bit of attention and ask her how she's doing. I want to talk
yes.
about, you said she may not, as one of the symptoms, she may not want to interact with her baby. And
Mhm,
we know those foundational years, even at birth, we know that mom interacting and loving and connecting and breastfeeding and all the things plays a part in that baby's attachment, how
mhm.
they build relationship, how they build a bond with that mom. How is there anything going on with that?
Absolutely. So there's a direct correlation with that, actually. So mamas that are not treated, that experience perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, are more likely to experience attachment bonding issues with their baby, which we know that attachment forms, it actually forms in utero, but it also carries out and further develops after baby is born, right? So imagine if mom is not able to take care of the baby's needs If baby is constantly crying and mom is not tending to the baby when baby is crying, she's teaching this baby learns, I can't trust my mom to come to me when I need. And think about how that carries on into childhood, into adolescence, into adulthood, and so on
Ooh. Let's make it
when it's not
plain, Brooke.
corrected.
Let's make it real plain. When you talk
Are we about
about,
to go there?
we're going there. When we talk about carrying over, it sounds very simple. It sounds like, oh, okay, well, they didn't attach. No, 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 no. When a child, what you're saying is when a child does not get what they need from the mama because the mom is challenged with mental health issues that are not being taken care of,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that baby doesn't attach. And because that baby doesn't attach to that mom, it develops trust issues. Oh, that's one of the
Absolutely.
things that it can develop. Just
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go
Right.
there. What does it look like for a baby who develops trust issues for it to carry over into childhood, adolescence, and adulthood? Please give me an example to make it plain.
So let's say mom is a single mom,
That's a good one.
okay? And she's experiencing heavy postpartum depression and anxiety, since those two usually go hand in hand.
And
And
postpartum,
let's
let them know what postpartum
after
is.
birth.
After she's
After
given
birth.
birth.
Postpartum is after, yes. So baby is here. Baby is earthside. And let's use the example that I said earlier. Baby is constantly crying. She'll feed the baby, but baby, we know that babies cry more than just when they're hungry, right? So let's say she's feeding the baby, but let's say she's not going to the baby immediately when the baby's crying. Let's say she's leaving the baby in the crib or their safe space for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, so, or maybe even longer.
Mm-hmm.
Baby then learns that my crying does not get my needs met. So now what do I do? What can I do in order to get this person, because I can't take care of myself,
Mm-hmm.
how can I get my needs met? And I'm the infant, right? Baby's now a child. Same thing. Mom is still untreated. Then the child starts acting out. Well, we call it acting out or having tantrums because the kid's needs are constantly being unmet. So now the kid has developed what we call an anxious attachment style, constantly people pleasing, trying to do things. Yeah, I said it. Trying to do things to get attention,
Yes.
right? To get
Yes.
some sort of attention because they don't feel loved, because they don't feel like they had the bond that they needed. Now they're in adolescence. May start to have distrust in women in general because of the lack of the bond that they have with their mother.
And they'll start going toward who?
Men, if they're a girl, right? Trying to get different. And sometimes that happens with bonding concerns with their fathers as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be female, male, whatever. You can still have issues with women.
Yes.
Doing things, going into unhealthy relationships because they never knew what a healthy relationship was, because they never experienced it themselves.
This is good.
Because it started with mom, and mom wasn't able to be present.
And now we're in adulthood.
Now we're in adulthood, not understanding why I can't be in a healthy relationship, why I'm so stressed out because I'm trying to people please everybody else.
And I don't trust nobody.
And I don't trust anybody. And then the people that I do trust end up betraying me, even though I'm not communicating what my needs are because I was never taught how to properly communicate.
Oh, this is so good. So good. So don't think for one moment, listeners, that this is just about the mama. This is about everybody attached to that mama. Everybody is impacted. And the impact of that mom not getting her mental health needs met can impact generations, can cause all kinds of issues. Brooke shared one, but there are so many things. Attachment is so important. Healthy attachments are so important. So important. This is deep. It starts before we even get here. Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it does. Mhm.
Yes, it does. And that's one of the reasons we talk about children who are in the foster care system. But
Mm,
when children, you went there, but when children are removed, we look at them and sometimes you'll hear people say, I want to adopt, but I only want to adopt an infant. When that baby is removed from their mama in those early years, oftentimes they have attachment disorders or unhealthy
yes. Yes.
attachment styles
Yeah.
that play out. And we can call them whatever kind of acting out behaviors we want to call them, but a lot of it goes all the way back to the beginning.
Yes.
To the
Absolutely.
beginning. Is there a period or time span that you are prone to have this health battle, and or are you out of the woods after a particular time after birth?
So health battle, are we talking about the perinatal mood and anxiety disorders?
Yes, we're
Experiencing
talking about
those?
anything related to perinatal, postpartum. What is the time span?
So generally women over 35 are more at risk. And I don't know if y'all know this now, but they call that a geriatric pregnancy, which is
Yes.
horrible.
Which is very affirming.
Lord have mercy. So yes, so women in that time, in that age bracket, tend to experience more. They're more at risk. So that 34 down, you would be less likely to experience that. But remember, there's other factors at play here. That support system, if you've ever experienced mental health disorders in the past, your socioeconomic status, your race, those are all important factors.
So after a mom has given birth in that postpartum stage, is there a time that she's out of the woods from developing or more likely to develop a postpartum um depression, anxiety, and
Disorder.
mood disorder? Yes.
So remember, we said earlier about 80% of women experience the baby blues. So it's a pretty high number. So you're more likely going to experience some sort of baby blues within those first 2 weeks, right? But after that 2 weeks, things should start to level off. So if you get past those first couple of weeks and you are still feeling pretty good, not experiencing any different symptoms, then I could say that you would probably be out of the woods, so to speak, with that. um, it, that 2 weeks is when those hormones ideally will have leveled out after baby's born.
I want to ask you something. You said earlier that race, socioeconomic status, I'm going there,
You see my face? I was like, here we go.
plays a
Yes, go
part.
ahead.
So, is it safe to say that if I am poor and a woman of color, that my risk levels increase?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can even think about it if you are living at below poverty level or in poverty level. Honestly, even as a middle class person, your access to healthcare and community resources are thwarted. They're less than.
Yeah.
That alone puts you more at risk.
Wow. Wow.
Women of color are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience maternal mortality,
Break that down.
meaning meaning they don't survive their either delivery or something happens. The leading cause of death in maternal mortality is postpartum hemorrhage, so bleeding out. Women are not being listened to when they tell these doctors, I don't feel good, something is off. When women of color start changing colors, okay,
Wow.
and nothing done. When their postpartum bleeding is heavier than a heavy menstrual cycle, when they start developing fevers, or when they have pain, severe pain in the abdomen. But because Black women have been the strong ones all these
I
years,
knew you were going to say that.
when we tell these doctors this, they think our pain tolerance is higher than what it is, and we get pushed aside.
And this is why we need our support systems by the bedside, walking the entire walk so that you know
Absolutely.
what to expect and you advocate for her when she says, I'm in pain. She can't get up and
Yes.
advocate for herself. She need you going to bat for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is why there is such a love for our doulas, especially with women of color, because they do that. They show up in that way. When the mom is not able to advocate for herself, that doula steps in and says, no, this is what we need to do,
So we had a
or this is
doula
what we're going
on.
to do.
We had a doula on a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month or so now, and I don't know if people
Mm-hmm.
remember what she said she does. So can you just refresh everybody's memory about what a doula is or what they do?
Yes. So a doula is an advocate for a mom. A mom will hire a doula to help, a lot of times to help them go through a natural, unmedicated childbirth,
Mhm.
is usually what the goal is. That mom will tell that doula their birthing plan, but the doula also educates the mom. And
Mhm.
this is the big piece, because I feel like there's so many of us that are having babies that are not educated, that we don't know what our options are. We just think because of things that we've heard or things that we've seen on TV and in the movies that this is all that is available to us. But there's so much more. There's
Yeah.
so much more. And so when you build that bond with your doula is the one that will speak for you when you are not able to speak for
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. That's good. I think a doula is very similar to a midwife, except the doula doesn't
Yes,
actually um deliver the baby.
correct. Hmm.
So that's really good. Really good. All right. What else should we know, Brooke? What else should we know about maternal mental health? Is there anything burning that you think support systems should know to better be able to serve?
I think the main thing is education. You know, we were just talking about the doulas and how they educate the moms. Do your research.
Yes.
Do your research. Don't just go off of word of mouth. Look into it yourself. Dive into it so you can be well aware of what your options are. I didn't know that there's medicine that you can have before you have an epidural. You don't have, when you get an epidural, you don't have to get a full epidural. You can just get something to take the edge off, so to speak, and you can still feel and still walk around.
Oh, wow.
Another thing a lot of people don't know is that Pitocin also is directly related. Um, it increases your risk for developing perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. I didn't know that when I had my daughter. Probably would not have elected to be induced. That's another thing. Don't be so quick to have a C-section. Many doctors will opt to say, oh, we'll just have a C-section because it's more convenient for them. No, you could have a C-section if you want a C-section, right?
The choice.
If there is a medical need to have the C-section, but just because the doctor is saying it doesn't always mean that that's your only option. right?
That's good.
Say you had a C-section with your first delivery and now you want to have a natural birth. That is a thing. You can do that. Find a doctor that will help you with that. It's called a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean, right?
Wow.
There's a way to do these things. But I think we go to a doctor sometimes and we just take their word for everything without doing the research and without getting that second opinion.
That's good. That's education is powerful. Education
Education
is
is
so
very
powerful.
powerful.
Education is powerful. Any questions from the audience? Talk to me. Any questions? This is so good. I'm telling you, I have never met a therapist who had this specialty. And so when I saw it, I was like, we got to talk about this because we often don't have these conversations. And when you have some things going on and you don't know better, then you can't do
Mhm.
better. And sometimes
Absolutely.
it's too late when we find
Mhm.
out. Are there
Absolutely.
support groups that are available for moms to get help for their mental
Yes.
illness?
Yes. The biggest one that I actually obtained my certification through is called Postpartum Support International. They have chapters all over the world. It's a free resource. They even have a maternal hotline where if you are having symptoms, you can call in and talk to an actual mental health professional who is certified in this specialty
Oh, that's so good.
to help you, to give you options and even help you look at what your options are in your own community.
That's good. Brooke, you have a book that you're working on, a journal.
Yes, I do. I do.
Can you tell us
I do.
can you give us a sneak peek about what it's about and who it's going to serve and all the good, whatever goods
Yes.
you can give us?
So I'm really excited about this project. It is a journal for women in their postpartum journey. I have tips and notes that I believe are helpful for women in the postpartum period. I have a space where you can write your birth plan, what your postpartum plans are, also down to you just writing, having just space to just write.
That's good.
The whole goal of this journal is to create a safe space so you can talk about in your journal what you don't feel like you can verbalize. And so if anyone says, "Hey, can I talk?" or, "How can I help you?" or "What do you need?" And if you can't find the words, maybe you can show them a particular piece in your journal that you've written.
That's
Like,
good.
I can't put my words together, but here's what I wrote. This is how you can help.
That's so good.
Right. So I'm really excited about this. I'm praying to have this out by the end of the year. That is my plan. And again, this is for all postpartum women, whether you are Black, white, Asian, Middle
Everybody.
Eastern, everybody,
Everybody.
everybody.
So
And I
that
want
means
them to remember that they matter, that their
mhm,
life matters, their mental health matters. I'm
even
excited.
while they're on that journey. So that means if you know a woman,
Especially.
you've heard of a woman, you're thinking about a woman
Mhm,
who might
mhm.
have a baby, she could definitely benefit from that resource. It's such a
Yes.
time of joy, but it's also
Mhm,
such a time for some women of pain. One
mhm,
of the things that we didn't talk about that is very real is some women experience trauma during
mhm,
childbirth. And that's
mhm.
a very
Absolutely.
real thing. So we don't want to minimize and think that every woman that gets pregnant and gives birth should be happy, excited, overjoyed, and come out of the hospital on fire with joy because that may not have been her experience.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to the attachment thing as well. Maybe I so transparency, actually, our son, I had a very traumatic pregnancy and delivery experience with him. He was delivered via emergency C-section, but I was told throughout our pregnancy that neither he or I would survive. I was told to plan a funeral for both of us, my husband and I. I was in and out the hospital the entire time. And these are medical professionals that told me these things. And so when he was eventually born, I struggled with bonding with him because I was afraid that he was still going to die. While I was pregnant with him, I struggled with bonding and doing all the fun things that pregnant women would do, because I didn't want to allow myself to love him if I wasn't going to be able to enjoy him.
Wow.
So now my son is completely healthy. He don't look like he was a preemie at all. He eats more than I do. So he's, we came out on the good side of things, but that's not every woman's testimony.
Yeah.
And some mamas don't get to bring their babies home. And this in October is actually Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So I would love to just take a few moments and just hold space for the mamas, for the families who have experienced that, whether it was a miscarriage, whether it was infant loss, whether it was an abortion. We don't
Yes.
talk about that either.
We
We don't talk
don't.
about the trauma that comes with having an abortion. We think that, infant loss is only loss if it's a miscarriage or if the baby dies. That is not the case, because some of these women are forced to have abortion procedures to save their own life.
Yeah.
Or whatever reason,
I
they
was
had
gonna say,
to make that
and
choice.
even if it wasn't that reason, she still
Correct.
has an experience, and she has
Yes.
experienced loss.
That she will never forget.
Yes.
That she will never forget.
Yes. I agree with you 100%. And it's actually on the spring list of things that we want to talk about in the elephant room, because
Okay.
sometimes we hold them, we convict them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to support people, period, through
Absolutely.
their
It's
real
still
life
loss.
lived experiences. Sometimes judgment
Yes.
gets in the way. um, Even when someone miscarries, we may not
Mm-hmm.
understand that woman's journey and why she feels the way she feels, and people will say some very hurtful things sometimes, like, well, it
Oh,
wasn't
yes.
even a baby. Well, it was. And so
Mm-hmm.
I feel that sometimes we pull back on supporting based on our judgment call. And so I want to just encourage people to be there when people are hurting. You may not understand it, and we don't have to understand it, but we
Mm-hmm.
should be there to support and to love and to allow them the space to sit and share if they want. And if not, sometimes you just got to sit to let
Just
them
sit
know
in
that you're
silence.
yes.
Yes. Just be with them. Just be present. Just be
Are
present.
medical doctors receiving training on this condition, or is it only optional? It was a conversation. It was a pre-show
That is too
conversation.
funny. It
If that's not a
was. That is too
confirmation,
funny.
Brooke, I won't speak to it. I'll let Brooke speak to it. She probably has more eloquent words than I.
So I actually worked for a company that had a program called Healthy Steps. It's from 0 to 3. And it does involve training the pediatricians in particular for signs to look for women when they come in, actually, for the newborn visits and for a certain checkpoints throughout the baby's life. Is there enough training for it? No, there
Yeah.
is not. Is the bottom line story. And honestly, if you talk to a doctor, if you talk to an OBGYN, ask them how much they learned in med school about maternal mental health.
Yeah.
You would probably be shocked at their response.
I'll say ouch. two of the listeners agreed and said just being there matters. Just being there.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
sometimes I think we get
Absolutely.
stuck, Brooke, and we say, I don't really know what to say. You don't have to know what to say.
Mhm.
And it's okay to say, I
You
don't know
don't.
what to say right now, but I want to be here with you. And if you need
Yes.
anything from
Yes.
me, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Absolutely. There's one more thing that I feel the need to highlight,
Okay.
and that is the importance, women, of knowing your body and knowing when something is off and actually speaking about it or advocating for yourself in those moments.
Yes. That's good.
You may be going to medical professionals, but you are the expert of your body. So if you go, whew, my Lord, if you go to the doctor and your blood pressure is through the roof and you know that you have a really good history, I'm speaking from personal experience here, don't know if you can tell, and you know that your blood pressure is usually on point, speak up.
Yes.
Because the first thing that they will probably say is, oh, you're pregnant. That's normal. It's okay for you to say, that's not normal for me.
Oh, that's good.
That's not where I usually am. I've been pregnant before and my blood pressure wasn't this high.
That's good.
Something is wrong. Or we need to do more follow-ups, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
You know your body. You are the expert of your body. Act as such.
And the body knows. That's what one of the listeners says. The body
The
knows.
body
And that
knows.
is even if you're not pregnant, because I had the experience whenever I go to the doctor, Brooke, and they use the little machine, the little cheap machine.
Mm-hmm.
I say no. Don't use that machine because it always ranks higher than the manual
Mm.
equipment. And every
Mm-hmm.
single time, or if I'm just walking in from the parking lot that was 3 blocks down the road, you're not taking my blood pressure
Right.
as soon as I sit in the chair. Okay?
And these are things you would think they would know, right? But sometimes you have to speak
You
up, and
you
don't
have
be
to
afraid to
say,
speak up because your life may depend on it.
yes, yes. And I've had someone say to me before, well, to do your blood pressure manually, I'm going to have to go down the hall and get, I'll wait. I'll
Right.
wait. I will wait. I will.
Yes.
Because you're
Mm-hmm.
going to try to tell me I have something that I don't have or give me something that I don't
Mm-hmm.
need. So 100%, I agree with you. And if you need to get a second opinion about something
Do it.
related to your body, do it. And this is not just with maternal. Period.
It's anything.
Do
Mm-hmm.
it. Doctors are practicing. They have a healthcare practice. You need to get a
Mm-hmm.
second opinion, get a second opinion, and it's not offending anybody. Any good doctor would want you to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Brooke, I am so happy we had this conversation. One of the listeners said, thank
Likewise.
you for your
You're so
sincerity and your
welcome.
openness, sharing your personal journey. Your comments and information was educational and impactful. We need to have more conversations so that we will educate people, and people need to know. So thank you
Yes.
so much.
You are so welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. If they want to reach out to you, follow you, connect with you, can you tell us your social media handles, your website? Give the people all the information.
Yes. So they can find my website is ewellnessconnections.com. And I had my Instagram handle is ewellnessconnections. So just like the website, but without the .com.
That's good.
And the Facebook handle is the same, ewellnessconnections.
E-wellness. E as in Edward. Wellness. One of the listeners says, wait until my white coat syndrome settles. Yes, Don't take my blood pressure when I'm anxious and scared.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Give me
listeners,
some
let me tell
time.
y'all, I have a surprise for y'all. Next week, I am going to be in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I'm bringing y'all with me. What you think about that? And I think I'm going to leak some things from my new book that is coming up, Polished Pain, The Cost of Burnout and Unresolved Trauma. So make sure you are in the room next week. Brooke, let me tell you, you have been a blessing to us tonight. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
everything you poured out. We appreciate you. Elephant Room, until next time, take very good care of yourself, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Elephant Room. Make sure you like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform for more powerful insights, down-to-earth conversations, and the courage to face whatever comes your way. This is where vulnerability meets strength and transformation gets real.